Okay, here's the deal. Some of you said that if I make a review in English, even though it's maybe not quite as long and detailed as the German one, but I break down the most important stuff, you would be fine with that. So let's just put that to the test and see if that's what you really wanted with the review of the Razer Kaira Pro. This is a wireless gaming headset meant firstly for the Xbox One X, also Series X, but there is also an Xbox wireless adapter that costs about 20 bucks, and then you can also use it on your Windows PC. Now in terms of price, it sits around 170 euros, I guess also dollars. And there is also a non-pro version for about 120. The main differences are that on the pro version you get RGB chroma lighting, you get a microphone that is detachable, and it also comes with Bluetooth. If these are things that you don't need, just go for the 120 version, and then I can actually also already tell you that this is a fine deal. But today we are talking firstly about the Kaira Pro. You can just imagine the other things being gone. Now, in terms of design, there is quite a big distinction between the Razer Black Shark V2 Pro that I'm recommending right now at the moment for, in my opinion, the best wireless gaming headsets. But these don't actually compete right against each other because there are some, noticeable differences. But let's put that to the side and talk about this one. Now, they used quite a lot of plastic, and with just one arm I can't really bend it that much, but it feels quite solid. I mean, the materials feels fine. The only thing that I don't like so much that this has no resistance at all and is quite floppy, which you will notice once I'm going to try to put it on with just one hand. But the plastic feels fine, everything else feels good. I also like the headband adjustment being quite nicely firm and stiff and even numbered. Now, in terms of controls, we have the following. We have a headset mute button, a volume rocker, then we have the power button, USB-C for charging, and the port for the microphone, which is quite flexible. Then, on the other side, we have the button for the wireless pairing, but you can also use it with Bluetooth, and the voice and game chat balance. And these are actually also multi-purpose buttons where you can switch between the profiles and equalizer settings. Quite nice about that. The padding here, quite nice and soft and thick. The ear cups, the difference compared to the Razer Black Shark, which uses the same material, the flow knit material, is that this, as you can see, maybe is a little bit more oval, where this one is a little bit rounder. And I actually think that the Black Shark V2 is a little bit more comfortable, but it is deep enough and my ear didn't really touch anywhere. So I would say I'm gonna put it on, and I'm pretty sure I will fail because this thing has no resistance at all. And you might say, just use your second arm. Unfortunately, I can't get it that high without pain. So yeah, this actually worked better than on the German version. So I like the comfort because this is soft. The clamping force isn't too strong. You don't feel this at all, but the fit is a little bit off because it feels to me like the clamping force is a little bit on the lower side here and it pushes here, and therefore it just doesn't sit as well. So I can use the Razer Black Shark V2 a little bit more longer comfortable because this, it doesn't hurt or anything, but at some point it pushes a little bit oddly, but otherwise it's fine. You can use it for hours, and due to the flow net, your ears don't really heat up, so it's fine. The passive noise cancellation, I would say, is solid, but that's about average. I would like to go now to the software, so let's take a look at that. There's actually not that much to change, so if we go into that, we can, for example, have access to the audio equalizer, bass free, and you can switch these with the buttons, just so you know that. Then there is a microphone equalizer, also some extra settings, and you can change the lighting. There are different options like breathing, also color spectrum and so on. This is right now in German, I didn't really change it. And then you have a kind of like battery saving mode when it turns on off. So that's pretty much already it. And now I would like to get to the microphone demo. Okay, so this is the microphone demo of the Razer Kaira Pro on a PC using the Xbox wireless adapter. And before we're actually going into the quality, let's check the software. Even though there's actually not that much to tell, we have the equalizer where you can adjust how the microphone sounds. This is actually something that you don't get with all that many headphones. And then you can also use like loudness boost and a normalizer. But I would say just forget those. Use the sound as it is. And as it is, I'm gonna just show you the background noise. Yes, this is actually a little bit louder than on some, but if you have some kind of software running, maybe on a PC, you can get that out of the way. But if you are talking, it doesn't really usually disturb anyone. So I'm actually would say that is fine. And I have to say that this sounds really, really good. I mean, I'm not quite sure how they achieved that compared to all the other headsets that I usually use, but this sounds way better. I mean, it's flexible enough, so don't get too far because it will thin out. But it's also not quite as kind of problematic with the plosion noises like the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro was. So Peter Panic pumps power. Yeah, that's what I usually say in German. So get a normal distance, the sound will feel fine, and the plosions are not a problem, nothing else is, and it sounds just really, really natural. So this is most probably the best wireless headset that I've used so far, and if you are really putting high importance on that, this is definitely the one to go for. Okay, you've heard the microphone, and I gotta say, this is actually pretty much the best that I had so far. I'm not quite sure if it's because of the Xbox wireless protocol or whatever they are using, but this is pretty much the exact same microphone that Razer Blackshark V2 Pro has, and it's way, way cleaner, way more dynamic, way clearer, way more natural, and this is a pretty good microphone, so good on that. Now, let's talk about sound, and I'm actually gonna keep this a little bit shorter. I also did this on a German take because, I mean, you have to think about one thing. This is either 120 euro or 170 euro gaming headset. And if you just think about that, you pay for the wireless option itself like 50 to 70 bucks. This is roughly at around the 80 to 100 euro normal gaming headset. And this is pretty much what you get in terms of quality. So this is very comparable to something like a Razer, like a HyperX Cloud Flight Alpha. Flight is the wireless version, an Alpha or a Cloud 2, maybe an Astro A40, also a Blackshark V2, Logitech G Pro X. So it sits kind of at the same place, which means you get a soundstage that is normally wide. You get pretty much a typical amount of information. The depth perception is pretty much the same. And this is not bad because if you consider you pay 120 for the version that already comes with such a good microphone and these quality settings for this price, this is actually respectable because the volume on this one is slightly above average, a little bit lower than the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro, but a little bit higher than most other ones. And the only louder ones that I know of are, for example, the HyperXs, if it's the Cloud Stinger or the Cloud Flight. Yeah, to the Cloud 2 wireless I'm gonna get soon, I hope so. So this is in most cases loud enough for me, but in some maybe not quite, where the other ones have a little bit of advantage. But for most people who don't blow out their ears like I do, it should be just fine. Now, in terms of sound quality, since you have the equalizing, you can get pretty much everything out of it. You can go more into competitive gaming, tune a little bit more neutral, or you can go into action gaming where it can provide you a really nice bass and a nice soundstage and a really nice casual gaming experience. Now, like I said, the way you can perceive where people are, footsteps, you can hear them, you can locate them, and this is all on a typical level compared to those. You won't really get much more out of it. For example, the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro has a little bit more details. For example, if you have a racing game, when the engine is running, you hear a little bit more details, a little bit easier, or you can hear the footsteps. The sound stage is a little bit wider. It's a little bit better. It's not by a whole lot, and if you are just a normal casual console gamer and not super competitive, you won't really maybe even notice the difference. For music, personally, if you don't use more than one headset, you can go away with it for music. It's fine. Generally, I like to use a proper headphone for listening to music, but this is just fine. You will get a good experience out of that. Now, pros and cons. Pros, I would say the design, the build quality, everything feels fine. The whole lot of options that we have with Bluetooth, the wireless option is pretty good. The connection, I mean, the controls. Then we have a pretty good comfort, maybe not perfect fit, good overall sound qualities, a very good microphone, and all this for a price that is absolutely fair. If you consider 120 for the slightly, lower version compared to the Pro, this seems respectable, and I'll get into that when we come to the alternatives. And I don't really have anything else. I mean, if you don't have too high expectations, this just does the job fine, and there are no real cons. But to get to the conclusion, and also already to the alternatives. Now, if the microphone is very important to you, then go for this instead of the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro. But if the microphone is not that important because the V2 Pro isn't quite as good, you just get a better overall sound experience. It is more comfortable. It's a little bit louder. and generally the one that I would take for best headset use, because the important part for me are sound and also obviously the comfort. And this one just isn't as good in these departments. Battery life, I forgot to mention, that is also absolutely fine at around 20 hours without RGB and 15 with RGB. Now, competitors, obviously, the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro. I said that already, but if you're going for the normal Kaira at around 120, I would say you could consider the HyperX Cloud Flight. This would be the highest competitor. It's a little bit louder, similar comfort, weaker microphone and so on, but those are actually pretty close. And then maybe at the higher end, the Razer Blackshark V2. Yeah, and this is actually not much shorter than the English version, so I'm just gonna cut this out right now. I hope you get it. So for 120, absolutely. If you wanna go already to 170 and wanna use it on a PC, you have to pay 20 more. In my opinion, just go for the Razer Blackshark V2 Pro, where I would have to say one thing. There were some people complaining about some odd noise issues that were fixed on the microphone side with an update and over time, but I also have a second unit, and that one on its right ear cup has a permanent, like, kind of humming, a high frequent humming tone. So get a one that it's working properly and you should be good to go. But I'm actually pretty happy considering that you can get this, not quite this, but the normal version for 120. Quality is pretty satisfying. Yeah, that's it. Okay, until next time.